How's it going, hockey fans? It's me, Two Pad Stack here, and today we are going to be talking about arbitration. So, when an RFA, a restricted free agent, they must sign with the team that owns them. And if they cannot agree on a contract, then they go to what is called arbitration, where an independent source known as an arbitrator will come in and negotiate between the team and the player and decide on what kind of contract that player is going to receive. So we have a lot to get to today, so let's get right into it. So, starting us off, the Boston Bruins have to deal with Matt Grzelcyk. He is a defenseman. In this year, he played 68 games with 4 goals, 17 assists, and 21 points. The one thing about arbitration is that depending on how long it goes for, it can really sour the relationship between a team and a player. So arbitration, depending on how long it goes, can it can tell you just how long a player is going to be with the team. Buffalo has to deal with three. They have Victor Olofsson, who was very good this year as a rookie. He was either fourth or fifth in Calder voting this year. He's a left winger. He played 54 games, 20 goals, 22 assists for 42 points. They have Sam Reinhart, who plays with Eichel, so that's tough. He's a center with 69 games played this season, 22 points, 28 assists for 50 points. So yes. And then they have Linus Olmark, who played 34 games with a 915 save percentage in Buffalo, with a 2.69 goals against average. So Buffalo's got three big ones to deal with, and that's going to hurt, especially in their wallet right now. Next up, Calgary's only got Andrew Mangiapane. He's a left winger. He had 68 games, 17 goals, 15 assists for 32 points. I like Mangiapane. Uh, Hopefully, this doesn't sour the relationship between him and Calgary because I do like him as a Calgary Flame. Carolina has Hayden Fleury, who played 48 games for 4 goals, 10 assists, and Warren Fogle, who played 68 games, 13 goals, 17 assists for 30 points. So, Warren Fogle, I believe, those are two depth guys. Hayden Fleury's a depth defenseman. Warren Fogle's your depth forward. Those are two guys that you probably should keep in the long run. Next up, the Colorado Avalanche have Ryan Graves on arbitration. As of recording this, Ryan Graves has signed with the Avalanche. 3 years, for $9.5 million total over those 3 years. So, about three a year, three and a little more a year. So it's nothing too crazy for Graves. In this past season, he had 69 games, 9 goals, 17 assists for 26 points. Ryan Graves is a pretty good defenseman who I like a lot. He really had a bit of a breakout year this year. So hopefully he can continue doing that with the Avalanche. Detroit has a big one. Tyler Bertuzzi, who went to the All-Star game this year. He's left winger, 71 games played, sorry. 21 goals, 27 assists, 48 points. He's pretty good. If he was on a better team, honestly, right now, he could have more points than that. Um, but as of this point, Tyler Bertuzzi, they need to get him a contract pretty quick here. Florida has Mackenzie Weegar, defenseman, 45 games, 7 goals, 11 assists, 18 points, nothing crazy. Minnesota signed their only player who went to arbitration, Capo Kakinen. He signed for 2 years, a two-way deal. He's a goalie. Although it's interesting, the first year of his deal, it is a two-way contract, but then the second year of his deal, it is a one-way contract. So Cam Talbot will only be there for 1 year. I can see the year after this season, it is going to be Stalock and Kakinen in it. In the AHL he played 5 games in the NHL this year. He did pretty well. He had a 913 save percentage, 2.96 goals against average. This isn't great, but still 913 is pretty good. Next up, the Islanders have three players. Josh Hosang, who I can't imagine he plays a game as an Islander. In the AHL this season, he only played 22 games and scored 13 points. Um, the Josh Hosang saga has been interesting. He was supposed to be this really great player and highly touted prospect, but it's supposedly his attitude, and he just can't get into the league. And then as roster players, well, one of them is no longer an Islander. Ryan Pulock, who's a defenseman, 68 games played, 10 goals, 25 assists for 35 points. He is a really good defenseman, defensively at least. And he can really put up some points. 35 points as a defenseman isn't really anything to sneeze at. And then Devon Taves, who's no longer a New York Islander as of this moment, he is now in arbitration with the Colorado Avalanche, or I don't know if he's still in arbitration or how that works. But this is going to be pretty interesting to see what Devon Taves gets. Colorado gave up their second this coming year and next year for Devon Taves, so we'll see what he signs for and what he gets. Next up, the Rangers. The Rangers have four players who are RFAs. They are in a little bit of trouble, and all four of them I'd say are pretty important players on their roster. First up is Tony DeAngelo, who is a defenseman. He played 68 games this year. In 68 games, 15 goals, 38 assists, 53 points. Absolute monster this year. I know his defensive numbers aren't great, but 53 points out of a defenseman is pretty impressive. Next up, the Rangers also have Alex Georgiev, who had a 910 save percentage this year and a 3.04 goals against average. In 34 games. It's going to be interesting to see what kind of contract he gets. He will be the backup to Shesterkin this year. So we'll see how much he gets. The next two players are very important players on that roster. Ryan Strome, who's a center, and Brendan Lemieux, who is a left winger. Ryan Strome had 59 points this season, only 18 of which were goals, but 41 assists is incredible. And Brendan Lemieux he is a physical player, just like his father, Claude Lemieux. Hopefully nothing as controversial happens with him, although we'll see how it goes. But he had 18 assists. So New York Rangers really have four big guys that they really need to sort it out with. Next up, the Ottawa Senators have three players, two of which I'd say are pretty important. The third, so the two important players, they have two forwards, Connor Brown and Chris Tierney. Connor Brown had 43 points this year. Chris Tierney had 37. Both are very important to the Senators right now, especially in the roles that they play. And then they have a fringe NHLer defenseman, Kristen Yaros, who in 13 games with the Senators this season had 3 points, 0 goals. So we'll see how he does and if he can make more of a full-time spot next season. Although with Ottawa acquiring so many free agents, I don't know. Next up, Toronto has Ilya Mikheyev, who's a right winger. He had 23 points in 39 games this year, so, about a 50-point pace, 55-point pace. I don't know why I think he got injured or something. I don't know why he was in the lineup. But that's a guy that you need to keep, especially with his points scoring ability. You need to keep him. And lastly, there is Jake Virtanen for Vancouver, who's a right winger. I like Jake Virtanen, and they need to keep him. He could actually evolve into what he was drafted to be still. He's young enough to do it. You need to keep him. He had 36 points in 69 games, so it's going to be really interesting to see how he does. Oh, and I just found out there are three guys who I missed talking about. Two of them are for Carolina, and one of them is for Ottawa. So Carolina has two basically AHL guys, Clark Bishop and Gustav Forsling. Clark Bishop in 5 games in Carolina this season, had 1 assist. And Gustav Forsling didn't play a game in the NHL this season. All of his games were in the AHL. As a defenseman, he put up 26 points in 57 games. So impressive numbers. Hopefully, he can make the NHL this coming season. And Ottawa had one more, Nick Paul, who was a left winger. I don't know how I missed him, but he had 56 assists. Or sorry, in 56 games, he had 20 points. And yeah, that's about it for the players on arbitration right now. I'm probably going to come out with another news video later today, just to round out the day, and we'll see what tomorrow brings. I will see you next time.